Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome back to another episode of Smarter Campus Podcast. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce Aaron McKelkey, a dynamic educator, integration consultant, and a content creator with over 15 years of experience as a history teacher. Aaron, thank you so much for being here. Just for everyone listening, if you could give a little more about your background, I know there's a lot in there, so they'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zach. I'm a career educator, leader, coach. I have taught high school social studies for 15 years now. I've always been kind of a experimenter, early adopter. My second year teaching, all my kids got laptops and the internet, and I realized knowing facts was not that valuable, even though I just paid a bunch of money for a degree in that. And ever since then, I've learned like it's easier and it's better for students if you can adapt to the world around you instead of trying to make it change to fit your classroom. And AI has just really been a continuation of that.
Well, I mean, you mentioned being an early adopter. How'd you stumble upon this whole AI technology thing?
Yeah, this is going to shock you since I work with high school students, but TikTok, I I did not have TikTok. I definitely didn't make TikToks back then, but the week we came back from Thanksgiving break in 2022, I had a student show me a TikTok video and they said, you should check this out, because I knew I was kind of techie. And I went home that day and got on ChatGPT, and I kept getting kicked off because they were busy. And I remember just thinking like, what is this? How does it work? What's it going to do for teaching and learning? And I didn't understand any of it, but I knew it was going to matter. And I wanted to be part of the conversation of how it would.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important. How have you seen your job, like in high school education, change since that day?
A ton. I mean, that's what's weird. I think a lot haven't, and some have actually gone backwards in terms of, okay, we only write in class, paper, pencil. I'm super strict about phones and lockdown browsers. And so it's been very polarizing. Like the middle, probably 80% haven't meaningfully changed that I've seen. But then like the extreme 10% that are early adopters are doing crazy things that weren't even possible a year or two ago. And at the same time, there's like, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but obviously if they're listening to your podcast, they're not the laggards and the skeptics. The old school people are even more old school than they've ever been.
Yeah. I mean, like off that point, what have you done within your high school or even your community to kind of like try to change that, or if you have at all?
Yeah, I mean, mostly just in my own classroom because that's what I
Yeah.
ultimately have control over. The first thing I did that January of 23, so I played with ChatGPT for a month. And then I came up with this terrible idea that I would do all my own assignments that I gave my students with only ChatGPT for a whole semester. Because I didn't know, like, can I even use this? Am I going to get fired? Can kids use it? How do you use it? And I just tried to think of a low stakes way. And I'm like, would my bosses care that I wrote my own essays I assigned kids? And I didn't imagine they would care. And I just kind of did that for a semester until I could figure out how to use it myself. And then the next thing was like, okay, so what should kids be doing with this and how do you teach them? Because there was nothing out there. It wasn't like you could get a curriculum or go download a guide. You just kind of had to make it up as you go and
Yeah.
keep track of what you were doing that did and didn't work.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched a lot of your videos and like the how-to testing things. I mean, it's a crazy space right now, like in the last week, even. I kind of just love your opinion on like what your favorite one is that's out there, like the big models.
Yeah. And that's something I've tried to do is be tool agnostic, but
Yeah.
like historically, ChatGPT was the first one most people use. So unless you were a AI engineer, data scientist, you didn't even know what AI was really, even though it's been around for a long time. I really invested in ChatGPT because in December of 23, when they did the custom GPT store, I remember sitting at my kids' wrestling practice. Parents normally just sit there for like an hour scrolling Instagram. I was like, I'm going to build a GPT. I don't know how to do that. There was no guide on how, but I just sat down and started doing it on my laptop 3 or 4 nights a week. And then I realized I was like, whoa, you don't even have to prompt this thing anymore, and you can share it with other people. So that's definitely my most used tool. But I just did a 2 week span where I used Claude every day. And I do really like some things about Claude, the tone and the writing style and how it can capture my own voice with the writing modes is awesome. But as a history teacher and somebody who does a lot of research, it doesn't have internet access. And it's almost like the things it does well are amazing. And then it also has some glaring gaps that I can't accept, which is why Perplexity is one of my current favorites. And my students, not a single student in my classes this semester had heard of it. And we've all kind of agreed it's our go-to, especially for research and finding sources. It's way better than Google search ever was.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you have a really open dialogue with your students. How'd you like get that going, I guess?
It's the same way I got on TikTok. I just asked them, like, what do you guys know about this and what do you want to know? Just like you'd give a pretest for history, right? You don't want to waste their time teaching them stuff they already know. I give my students an AI survey the second day of class, and it's like, what tools have you used? What do you view AI as? Is it useful to learn with? What concerns do you have? What do you want to know about it? And then I think the biggest one is teachers shouldn't be afraid to use it in front of kids or tell them, like, hey, I used AI on this. Because so many people are like on their phone under their desk using it, trying to be sneaky or sound smart. And when you use it in front of kids and model how you use it, then they're going to be more open about it with you, which makes your life easier as a teacher.
Well, I'd be super curious. Like you said, that survey, you see what they're worried about. What are some of the things that you've gotten from that?
Yeah. So the most common response from my students, it was a multiple choice. So I picked, there were 4 different things. And I was surprised. I thought environmental impact would be the biggest, but I'm not sure they really understand that. And I'm not an expert either. But the most common response with them was copyright issues with how it's trained. Like, is my work being trained? Is it copying, artists and bloggers and journalists? And is it ethical to do that? That was their biggest concern going in. But there's 3 weeks left of the semester, and I'm excited to give them basically the same thing and then see how all their answers change.
So what do you focus on? Obviously it's like educating how to use the tool and stuff like that, but outside of that, like what do you focus on educationally, like environment, ethics, stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm big on, I just tell my students, you guys can do whatever you want at the end of the day, but if you haven't tried something, you can't have an opinion, whether that's food. The example I always give is calamari. People tell me they hate calamari, and I'm like, but have you tried it? Well, no, but I hate the idea of it. Okay, how can you say AI isn't useful to learn or is unethical if you don't know how it works and you haven't used it? Because you can go use it and then say, I don't like what it's giving me. I don't agree with how it works. I don't understand it. And then you can cast it aside for good reason. So it's kind of that idea of like, do something you already know with AI. Or one of my favorite things is do something you're terrible at and it's like zero risk. Like you can't get in trouble. You won't fail a class or get fired from your job, and try AI for that and see how it works.
That's funny. That's what I always tell people is like, what's your least favorite thing to do at work? If you mess up, do you get in trouble? If the answer is no, try it. It's like, why not? So curious. So you've kind of become like an influencer, I would say. I mean, I watch your videos for influence on what I should be using, and that's kind of what I use as the definition. Uh, but how have you seen like your influence within your community at school? Like, do you have teachers coming to you asking for help, or is there like kind of a standoffishness?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. There are. That's one of the things that's weird right now is so many people use it, but they're trying to be discreet or sneaky. I do get randomly asked, mostly because I started making content around it, and I never even posted on Facebook. I didn't have TikTok, and my wife just gave me this pep talk. She's like, "You need to make videos and post what you're already doing because it's weird and people would want to know." So I do get teachers that are like, "Oh, I saw your Instagram or your TikTok." That's for whatever reason, TikTok's algorithm really likes me. It's mostly the funny stuff, not the AI, but it gives you street cred with students and staff. But yeah, like I had a colleague pull me in a room. He's like, "I really need to talk to you," and he made it sound all serious and kind of scary. And I'm thinking, somebody's in trouble or his boss is mad at him. And he's like, "Can you teach me how to use AI to do this thing?" And he closed the door, and it was like we were talking about the nuclear launch codes. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, is it that weird you'd want to use AI and you have to be like sneaky about it? So some of that might be just the culture of where I am. I'm in the literal Wild West in Wyoming, but
Yeah.
there aren't a lot of guidelines, like even just policies on AI, and people take that one of two ways. One is like, okay, so you can't use it because it's not enshrined in policy, or well, you can't get in trouble because it's not against the rules, which is usually the way that I take it because I like to experiment with things.
Yeah. I mean, do you see that changing right now?
I hope so. It's just like a chicken and the egg thing, right? People go, well, where do I get good policy from? I don't know. None of the schools around me, or say you're a principal and you call the neighboring five schools and they're all in the same boat. So that's ironically where I think the influencer thing comes from is it's not about selling stuff on TikTok shop or whatever. It's just like, hey,
Yeah.
here's what I do that works. Here's what I did that failed. You can learn from me and know that there's other people out there doing the same stuff that you're trying to figure out yourself.
That's great. I mean, I think a lot of people should like hear that, I guess. But I mean, what's your favorite thing to use AI for? Then like what's the daily use case, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, like you said, it's changing faster than ever. In the last 24 hours, Gemini got screen share, and I played with that last night. And to your, I love your use case of what's your least favorite thing at work that you won't get fired for messing up. I didn't use it for work, but for my personal life, my wife will testify I'm a terrible gift shopper. And so I was using Gemini's live view so it could see my screen to help me come up with Christmas gifts for my wife because I was like, it can't do worse than me. And ChatGPT got the the advanced voice mode now has the video feature. So just before I hopped on this to record with you, I was trying to make a TikTok video. Like I had it just pointed towards my screen and I gave it my hardest quiz that I give my students. And, not surprisingly, it was acing it. So I mean, I like to just experiment and play with things and go side by side, or what way did you used to do this task? Now try the same task with AI and see which output you like better. Ironically, I think it's really good at brainstorming and creativity. And people will say, well, it gives me bad ideas. And you go, yeah, that's the whole point of creativity. Like 9 out of 10 posts I write on LinkedIn are going to be terrible, but they led me to the one really good one. And it's the same with AI. Like if I'm ever stuck, I just say, give me 5 different ways I could do this. Or on a scale from 1 to 10, give me 10 increasingly creative ways I could do that. And most of them are terrible, but there's no excuse to stare at a blank page anymore when you're doing anything.
Yeah. I mean, you took my next question. Usually, one of the last questions I ask people is like, what's your favorite use case outside of education? It's super funny. No one's told me the gift shopping. I think I've done like 15 episodes now. And the last person I talked to, Jason Gulia, that's what he also said. He said he's been using it for Christmas shopping. So do you put in like what your wife likes and then just go scroll through like Amazon?
Yeah. So what I did with Google, you can go in like the studio view. So the app couldn't do it, at least at the time we're recording this today. And on my desktop, you just say give access to mic, and then you can either do webcam or screen. And I did screen. And I just said, here's 5 things my wife is into. I'm going to open up Amazon. Can you help me figure out a gift that she would like that isn't a kitchen appliance? And because I made a grave mistake. I got her a vacuum once for her birthday. And that is proof that AI couldn't do worse than me picking out gifts. So Like I gave it some interest and said, what would be a book she'd like out of these topics? This is what she's into. And, she'll be the judge, I guess, when she opens it. But also things that I didn't understand, like clothing. I was saying, here's what she likes about certain types of pants. Can you help me figure it out? And it was like analyzing what was on my screen. So it was wild because, you could screenshot, upload. And the cool thing about AI is something that was amazing a year ago now feels old. And you're like, oh, I have to screenshot stuff. I just want to, live stream ChatGPT through my camera. So that's, and then, there'll be a new use case in a couple of months after this that's like, we couldn't even comprehend. But yeah, I think playing with that, personally, one that's outside of my teaching role is my son in fourth grade already does math that's over my head. And the teachers, God bless elementary teachers, they're underpaid, underappreciated, couldn't do their job, but they send home a worksheet with no context. Like, I didn't see the lesson. It's not recorded. I don't have a textbook. And they go, use the break apart, redistribute method to solve this. And I'm like, dude, that wasn't a thing when I was in fourth grade, like 30 years ago. I don't think that existed. And so I'll just take out my camera and be like, okay, you're my fourth grade math tutor. I'm your student. I'm going to try to solve this. And then you're going to tell me where I went right or wrong and do it step by step. And I don't think I could help my son with his fourth grade math without ChatGPT like tools.
That's awesome. That's super awesome. I've heard a lot of people talk about that, where it's like, I use it to help my kids with their homework, which is just so, I think it's so cool. I mean, like, that's what it's for. It's here to make hard things easier. Last question, we'll try to keep these things short, is just for like a teacher or student who's interested in getting into this stuff, how do you recommend just starting?
Yeah, I like your method of do the thing you're the worst at and you can't get in trouble for. So say with a student, it wouldn't be plagiarism and you wouldn't get an F. Like taking notes. Help me summarize my notes from a lecture. There's no way you could screw that up so bad you get kicked out of school. So snap a picture, upload it to ChatGPT and say, give me a really brief synopsis of my notes and reorganize them. With teachers, I think, following people like you, the YouTube channel is great. Get on LinkedIn. It blows me away how few teachers even know that LinkedIn is a thing. They're always like, are you a salesman? You have a LinkedIn page. I'm like, no, I just want to learn from smarter people than me and share stuff. And it's wild. If you just go follow them, it's like free professional development in your feed every day. And then some of those people will answer DMs. If you have a question, can I see your syllabus? Can you share that assignment you talked about? And just be that person that reaches out to someone who's a step or two ahead of you. You'll be helping people a step or two behind you in no time.
That's awesome. I think that's the best answer I've gotten to that question. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on here. I really appreciate the time. And everyone listening, follow Aaron on socials. I'll put them in the YouTube. I really appreciate you being here. And thank you all so much.